This segment of Naperville Sports Weekly is brought to you by the Daily Herald.
I am here with Coach Kennedy, the head coach for the Neuqua Valley track and field team. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be here.
So first thing I want to start with is a good successful year for you guys. What was the expectations for you coming in for this team this year?
Really, we let the athletes set the expectations for us. It really doesn't matter what we do because we don't run on the track, we don't jump, we don't throw. And the athletes had very high expectations. They actually wanted a state championship or a state trophy. That's where their eyes were set. Their eyes were set at the top. And we came with only a few points away from a trophy. We're only 6 points away from third. It was a really close team race this year. So it is nice when you set your expectations high. Even if you don't meet them, you still end up at a really good place.
Yeah. And you had a big decision you made with the relays, and Isaiah was involved in that right before sectionals. Can you just take me through how you decided to make that change?
The coaches sit down, and what we're typically trying to do is moneyball the whole thing. We're trying to put as many pieces of our team into positions that can score. Sometimes that means loading the relays. Sometimes that means putting individual events. We felt we could score the most points by looking at our depth, and our depth is our strength. We have a lot of really talented athletes that together, if you put them together, can be a great team, a great relay team. And so what we did, we loaded up the relays. And we gamble when we do that. When you do this, when you put a lineup together the way we do, we're always gambling on, is that going to pan out the right way? And some things panned out and some things didn't.
Now you talk about the depth that you had. Is there one or even more than one athlete that really kind of broke through this year and exceeded what you expected them to do and just really had a phenomenal year?
There's actually a ton.
Yeah.
When you look at Miles Gaskin, he broke the school record in the 100-meter dash repeatedly this season. And then, at the state meet, he would have even been under the school record. We had a sophomore, Donovan Turner, who really had a broken arm from earlier in the season, came back and became our first 110-meter state qualifier. Unbelievable. Broke the school record, broke the Frostoff school record, broke the varsity school record. We had a ton of 800-meter runners come out of the woodwork. We had 8 guys who could basically run at 2 flat or under that were possibilities for our 4x8. We had guys like Jake McEnany who kept, he was a possible 2-miler for us. He was scored in the mile for us. He was on our 4x8. Isaiah turned out to be a runner who could be in anything. He was on our 4x1, 4x2, 4x4, 4x8. He ran the mile. I don't know if you're gonna get athletes with such depth. And we had some guys who just sprang up. Nick Mitchell in the 4x4. He was great. He was an athlete who really wasn't in our radar last year, and all of a sudden he's an all-state athlete. Zach Kinney absolutely destroyed his personal best in the 2-mile at State 2 to score for us. So we had a lot of guys rise up. As a matter of fact, when we got to conference and when we got to the sectional meet, the thing that I really challenged the athletes to do, weather was terrible, I said, go out and compete. Just compete to the best of your ability, and boy, did they rise. I mean, we had a night at conference, and then we repeated it like that at a night at sectionals like we haven't had in a long time. And we came into that sectional meet, and we were ready to rock.
And this is your 16th year here. Is this the most depth you've seen in a team that you've had?
This actually is really, really close, I think, but it's definitely the most state qualifiers. It's the most state qualifiers we've ever had. And with the addition of Donovan Turner in the 110-meter hurdles, Neuqua Valley has now qualified in our history in every single track and field event downstate. Cool. So 18 events. We've only been in existence for 20 years, and we've had an athlete represented at the state meet in every single one. That's a pretty big accomplishment.
That's pretty cool. What was different about this team, not the depth part, but maybe personality-wise that you liked about this team that you haven't had maybe in the past, or it's been different about different teams?
They're a bunch of goofballs.
Is it? Yeah.
they're just a bunch of silly kids, and that really, they're a very social group. They're a very fun group, and sometimes it feels like you're herding cats, but they're a great group to work with. But they were a very energetic group. Even on the bus ride home. They were trying to drive me crazy. They sang for the last half an hour of the ride home. They were all singing together and
taking advantage of their last
happy, social, fun group. But sometimes you have to rein them in a little bit,
So before sectionals, before state, now Isaiah touched on it. He's a social one. He's saying he talks to all the other runners, but he said he felt a different kind of pressure right before before his last run at state. Is there anything that you try to say to the athletes before state or sectionals, any of those postseason times, to kind of calm their nerves?
All I really tell them is do your best. Go have fun, do your best. If you do that, if you run at the absolute best you can, then what do you have to worry about? Mm-hmm. If somebody beats you and you gave everything you had, you have nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. What more could I have asked of you?
Well, what would you say is the toughest part about coaching track?
One of the big problems is keeping sort of an athlete's attention span and focus on what's a really long season. To start in January and say, hey, we're going to do things now that are going to pay off later, and you just have to be patient for it. As a matter of fact, when we look at a lot of other teams, sometimes I say, don't worry, they're beating us now. They're ready a little bit early. It's okay, we're going to get them. And they have to have the faith in the coaching staff, and that's where that good relationship comes in, that at the end we'll get them to where they need to be. And it pans out year after year, and they have to trust in that. And fortunately, we have that good tradition of seeing that happen.
What do you think you're going to miss most about this group of seniors?
Strangely enough, the thing that would drive me crazy about them the most was that sort of social and goofiness, whatever. And that's probably what I'm going to miss. Yeah. They're a fun group, and every group brings its own different energy, and this one that's where it was. But I'll tell you what, when it came time to rally, that was the other thing that I'll miss about them, is that when it came time to rally, they were there. Mm-hmm. They were pushing with every bit they had.
Is there anything that you ask of your seniors to lead by, whether it's example or with voice?
I let leadership happen. Mm-hmm. I never name captains until the award ceremony, and sometimes I don't even do it then. I feel that if you tell someone they're a captain, that doesn't mean anything. It has to come from within. They have to realize the leadership. And sometimes you'll have leaders you never expected, and they'll come out and they'll become some of your best role models for the kids. But if I tell them, it usually diffuses the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking forward to next year, what can we kind of expect to see with runners maybe we haven't seen, or athletes we haven't really seen as much of in the past? So
what's funny is when we sit down as coaches, we typically say, oh gosh, what's it going to be like to replace this group of seniors? This group is gone. They're amazing. How are we going to do that? And then we start looking at our juniors and our sophomores, and they're phenomenal. Mm-hmm. You have 2 sophomores who are in the state meet, who are state qualifiers. You've got Zach Kinney and Donovan Turner. You have a team of juniors, and they have a whole characteristic that is different than the one we just talked about. They're hungry. Mm-hmm. They're really hungry. And some of them were represented in our 4x8. We have a crew of distance running juniors who are just fantastic. We have a bunch of sprinters at the junior level who are also fantastic. You've got 2 sprinters who were already running at the state meet there. You've got field event guys like Mac Mitchell and Ife Okatona. There were 3 sophomores because Alex Kiefer also was down there. And then you've got 2 field event guys with Ife Okatona and Mac Mitchell in the horizontal jumps who have already qualified. So right away, it just looks like we're going to go right back. Mm-hmm.
Just pick up where you left off.
Looking exactly where we left off. So, and that's what we try to do. You never know what's going to happen from year to year. People can get injured, people can move, all kinds of things can happen. But this junior group, they are hungry, and they're looking forward to next year. I can tell already.
You've had so many successful seasons here. What do you think? I guess I know what to word it. What do you think makes them, or what makes that success continued year in and year out, where there's no breaks and there's no super down years? Why do you think you just continue to have so many good years?
Well, first of all, we try to get as many kids out for the team as possible. And when we try to get all those kids out, that sort of builds a really good community. Mm-hmm. And we try to make it about the fact that it may not be, you may not be the most talented athlete, but if you're working hard, that pushes everyone else. And we're all on the same mission to work hard. And once that happens, it just fuels its own fire. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is we make sure that when we go downstate, some of the alternates, we make sure that sophomores see it. We make sure the juniors see it, that they've been down there, that they have fun, that they see what it's all about. Mm-hmm. We actually have a journal that every athlete writes in after the state meet. We've kept this up for many, many years. And when they write in it, they say so many things about how much fun it was. And I'm going to be back next year, and I'm going to do this. And they basically make pledges to themselves.
And do they pass it down for other guys to see then?
They do.
That's what it. Okay.
They do.
So do you read them at the next year's? And
They read it on their own.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so a lot of times the guys will sit at the state meet and they'll just be reading through the books and they'll be amazed. Oh, I remember that guy.
So they're all in one thing.
Right.
That's pretty cool. How would you define yourself as a coach?
Sometimes I'm pretty schizophrenic when it comes to who I am as a coach. With me, I try to be the person who builds confidence in athletes. I'm trying to be a coach who brings a lot of science into the sport. I want to show that there's a reason that we do everything. And I do a lot of explaining about why we do things. I've always said if you have a coach who tells you to do something and can't explain why you're doing it, don't do it.
Yeah.
And really, if they have another plan and they want to tell me what it is, that's okay. And sometimes athletes have done that. They say, coach, we need something else today. That's okay. So flexible, humanistic, coming from an approach that sees the athletes as human beings. They're just there to have fun. Because if it's not fun, I don't want to do it, and they certainly don't.
Sounds like a good environment for the athletes.
We're trying. We try every year.
Well, congratulations on another successful year, and best of luck next year, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.